Vanakkam Gurudeva and everyone, wonderful to be with you. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadita Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And we will share the screen. Very good. August 13th in Asia. We have a question for you. What is Gurudeva's advice regarding the tendency for a new student of meditation to want to give up external things, give up work, and devote more time to perfecting meditation? So what's Gurudeva's advice? Overly enthusiastic new meditator. Let's see what Gurudeva said. This is in the introduction to each of the trilogy books. There is a strong tendency when a student first begins meditation to want to give up external things, to give up work and devote more time to making his meditation the perfect thing. But this is not the spirit of the Master Course. Many more forces that are negative would result from his turning away from the world, as possibly already occurred in his work in the exterior world prior to his ever hearing about meditation. Doesn't sound good. Thrust of the Master Course Correspondence Study is to improve all aspects of one's life. Step one is for the student to prove to himself that he can work positively in the world, performing his duties with full energy, intuiting how the whole mechanism of life is constructed. The exterior world, his mind, himself. Then 10, 15, or 20 minutes of good dynamic meditation a day, and the Master Course studies to guide the mind along in a step-by-step manner are more than sufficient. Comes down to readjusting our thinking and making our point of reference the reality within ourselves, instead of the reality and permanence of the external world of things, forms, and fancy. Once our whole philosophical structure is in line with Saiva Siddhanta thinking, it is easy to throw the mind into meditation. Then when we are working in our daily life, involved in external things and material affairs, the point of reference is that the energy within and the core of the energy and the self itself are real. The key is to put more energy into each activity you are engaged in. Rather than renouncing, close the window here. Rather than renouncing it, really work at it. Put your whole self in it. Get enthusiastic about it. Then you are flooding more life force through the body, right from the center of life itself. Having the self as a point of reality reference and not the material things, with the life force constantly flooding through these nerve currents, you are actually seeing what you are doing as part of the cosmic dance of Shiva, as the energy of Shiva flows in and through you. Through this practice, you can cut through many of your deep-rooted subconscious hang-ups that were provoked in past lives without having them come to the surface, simply by creating a new habit pattern of facing and looking at yourself as a divine being, performing your dharma in God Shiva's perfect universe. You create the new habit patterns by doing everything as best you can, with as much forethought and as much energy as you can command. This approach will bring steady progress on the path of personal spiritual realization and transformation. So steady progress, that's what it will bring. So that's what we want. Newcomers are overly enthusiastic and think the process can be rushed. So it's slow and steady progress. A comment from me. A reply I recently gave to a Master Course student relates to Gurudeva's idea of not withdrawing from the world. So the student stated an important difference between some modern approaches to spirituality versus Hinduism, in that these modern approaches believe in dropping out of society as they perceive society as totally non-spiritual, whereas Hinduism believes you can pursue spiritual progress and at the same time help society uplift itself. That, of course, is the householder path, grahastha dharma. So interesting point. I hadn't thought about it for a while, but there are spiritual groups that look at the world as bad, as worldly, and it should be avoided. Some spiritual groups think they're the only spiritual group in the world and everybody else should be avoided too, all the other spiritual groups. So that's not the Hindu approach. Hindu approach is, if you're on the Grahastha path, you're fully involved in the world, but at the same time, you're striving for spirituality. The two are compatible when approached in the right way. Oh, a pub desk. The world is an ashram. This is a continuation of integrating Hinduism. At it a few times now. This is another way of looking at it. May give you a few new ideas. This publisher's desk was written in response to encountering some Hindus who held the perspective that the world was a worldly place and was to be avoided, and was a distraction from making spiritual progress. This article shows that that is not the perspective of great souls, and that in fact, with a change of perspective, much spiritual progress can be made during our time in the world. In Hinduism, we are fortunate to have many God-realized souls to guide us along this spiritual path. Their teachings are so profound and powerful that they penetrate our normal consciousness and give us new insights into how to live to maximize our spiritual progress. Paramaguru Yogaswami gave us one such gem when he said, the world is an ashram, a training ground for the achievement of freedom, moksha. Each one does his part according to his own measure. There is nothing that is evil. Yogaswami's statement has a parallel in William Shakespeare's play, As You Like It. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. There have their exits and entrances. And one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. Here's a paraphrase of Shakespeare's lines, adapted to reflect Yogaswami's spiritual meaning. All the world's an ashram, and all the men and women are divine souls. They are spiritually maturing through earthly experiences. And one soul in its time takes many births, and thus evolves into oneness with God. Let's look more closely at what it means to say that all the world's an ashram. Ashram, of course, is a residence and teaching center of a Swami or spiritual preceptor. It is a place we go to learn about our religion and make spiritual progress. When we go out the door of our home to go to work, school, or elsewhere, do we have in mind that we are going to an ashram? That our actions during the day in the office, factory, hospital, classroom, or elsewhere will help us evolve spiritually and bring us closer to moksha? Probably not. When we come home and reflect back on the day, do we feel we made spiritual progress while out of the home? Probably not. Why is this? It is because we have not been trained to look at life in this way. We think of the ashram as a place of spiritual advancement, and we regard the world as a place of mundane tasks and distractions from our spiritual work. According to this thinking, we make progress in an ashram, but not when we are in the world. This common perspective is not the viewpoint of great souls such as Yogaswami. Such souls know that the world is a subjective place, which can be dark and negative, or the source of much joy and spiritual progress. We only need hold the right perspective, see things in the right way. Call this approach spiritualizing daily life. Concept down to earth by dividing the occasions for spiritual progress when out in the world into two categories: facing life's challenges, finding opportunities to serve. Think of them as two paths leading you towards spiritual maturity. First, let's take a few minutes to explore how we face life's challenges. You know from experience that life is going to come at you whether you want it to or not. Joyful, easy times, difficult times, happy days, and sad, it is all coming. It is all there in your karma. It can't help but come. So you don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to go try and do something different. You can't avoid it. You can't hide from it. Life challenges will come to us. What is going to happen is going to happen. But where the focus should be for those on the spiritual path is on how we respond to the obstacles that face us. Why? Because that is where we have a choice. Different people will respond differently to the same experience. For example, a small infant keeps us awake all night by crying. How do we respond to it? Does it upset us? Do we feel stressed? Or do we just accept it and respond back with lots of love? In every experience of life, we have control over our response. It can be impulsive or thoughtful. It's our choice. When accused of something that we didn't do, how do we respond? When we face challenges at work, for example, our boss is unfair with us, yells at us, what is our reaction? We want to yell back, but cannot. So do we go home and yell at the spouse? In all such cases, we have choices. It's not the challenges that come, but how we face those challenges that makes the difference. We can react emotionally without thinking about spiritual principles. We can get angry or despondent. We can worry a lot and become irritable. Or we can decide to control any emotional reactions that we might have. We can choose to live without anger. We can choose to cultivate patience. We can choose to be kinder to other people, to be more generous. That is what makes us spiritually stronger. As we curb our instinctive nature, our soul nature shines forth. In other words, if we get angry now and then, let us try and eliminate anger altogether. We get impatient with people who seem to explain things at great lengths when they could be explained in a short way. Let's learn how not to get impatient. Let us learn to accept that verbosity is their nature. Here is a list of 6 common challenges we face in life that provide us with good opportunities for spiritual progress, if we respond in a wise manner with self-control. First common challenge is mistreatment by others. Life provides us a steady stream of experiences in which we are mistreated by others. Rather than retaliate or hold resentment, we can forgive and respond with kindness. Second common challenge is our own mistakes. When we make a major error, we have a choice to wallow in self-doubt and self-deprecation, or to figure out how to not repeat the mistake. Important one. Third common challenge is difficult projects. When faced with tasks that stretch our abilities, We can do the minimal just to get by, or be inspired to do our best by looking at them as opportunities to improve our concentration, willpower, and steadfastness, all of which will enhance our meditation abilities and inner striving. Fourth common challenge is disturbed emotions. When we get upset by life's experiences, we have a choice to suffer the emotional upheaval or to strive to pull ourselves out of it as quickly as possible. Fifth common challenge is interpersonal conflicts. When serious disagreements, quarrels, or arguments occur, we have a choice to hold a grudge and perhaps even shun the person, or to resolve the matter and keep the relationship harmonious. Sixth common challenge is gossip and backbiting. When those around us indulge in gossip, rumors, scandals, and backbiting, we have a choice to join in or to not participate, and even among those close to us, make it clear that we do not approve. So that's the distinction there. It depends on how close the people are that this is happening with. If they're not close, you just need to excuse yourself. If they are close, you can make it clear that you don't believe in that type of talk. And the second category of occasions for spiritual progress when out in the world is what I call finding opportunities to serve. And Gurudeva explains this idea, living with Shiva. It's a great quote. Go out into the world this week and let your light shine through your kind thoughts, but let each thought manifest itself in a physical deed of doing something for someone else. So that's an important point. It's good to have positive thoughts, helpful thoughts, but it's better yet to turn them into doing something. Lift their burdens just a little bit, and unknowingly perhaps you may lift something that is burdening your mind. You erase and wipe clean the mirror of your own mind through helping another. We call this karma yoga. The deep practices of unwinding through service, the selfish, self-centered, egotistical vasanas of the lower nature that have been generated for many, many lives and which bind the soul in darkness. Through service and kindness, you can unwind the subconscious mind and gain a clear understanding of all laws of life. Your soul will shine forth. You will be that peace. You will radiate that inner happiness and be truly secure simply by practicing being kind in thought, word, and deed, underlining deed. There are many opportunities to help others at home, work, school, in the neighborhood, and community. We have developed a list of 6 simple practices, which I'll briefly introduce. Seeing God in those we greet is the first opportunity to help others. It may sound strange, I'll explain in a minute. When greeting someone, we strive to look deeply enough into them to see God, to see them as a divine being, evolving through experience into oneness with God. So why is that important? Because then naturally our attitude is then one of helpful and benevolent. So seeing God in someone, we're naturally helpful and benevolent. Whereas if we don't see God, we're not as inclined to be helpful and benevolent. And number 2, volunteering, common one. It's the second opportunity to help others. There are many opportunities each day to step forward and offer to help in ways that are beyond what is required of us. An attitude of humble service diminishes the ego and strengthens our spiritual identity. One important spiritual attitude is to be willing to help when called upon, to not resist or refuse, to be as open to helping others as you are in doing things for yourself. Expressing appreciation is the third opportunity to help others. We can uplift and encourage others by sincerely expressing how grateful we are for their help, friendship, and importance in our life. Reaching out to newcomers is the fourth opportunity to help others. In our modern world, people move around a great deal. Thus, there is a steady flow of newcomers at work, at school, in our neighborhood, and at our temple. Stepping forward to welcome and help orient them to the new environment is an excellent way to be of service. Offering hospitality is the fifth opportunity to help others. Everyone can find creative ways to be hospitable in the home, at school, and even at work. Number 6, making encouraging and complimentary remarks is the sixth opportunity to help others. Make a point to say something encouraging and complimentary to everyone you meet. Their day will be brighter because of it, and so will yours. That one's really easy to do. You're already meeting the person. I'll tell the story now. I remember checking into the Hilton Hotel in Burlingame near San Francisco Airport, probably 10:30 at night, another monk, and there was a medium-sized line, maybe 10, 12 people in front of us, and the hotel clerk was quite busy handling everyone and looking a little frustrated and tired. And so we said something positive to her, and she perked up. She was so happy to have a hotel customer say something nice. We reported 6 ways to face life and 6 ways to serve. There it is. Clearly, having a great day needs to mean more than getting a bonus at work or an A on a school test. It should include the spiritual progress you made that day through effectively facing life's challenges and the ways in which you helped and uplifted others. Our list of 12 practices is a good beginning, but hopefully you will keep expanding it as additional insights come from your striving to maximize the spiritual progress you can make from the experiences and opportunities each day brings. Also, parents can teach children to consciously strive for spiritual progress each day at school by facing life's challenges and finding opportunities to serve. Second topic, continuing looking at character qualities through the approach of positive psychology. Hoping we'll learn something new. As we know, positive psychology did research, extensive research, and found 6 virtues shared in virtually all cultures across 3 millennia. And as they are rather abstract, developed 24 character strengths, 3, 4, 5 character strengths in these different 6 virtues to bring it all down to earth. Make it measurable. Being psychologists, they have to be able to measure things through repeated incidents. Last week, we completed the study of the 5 character strengths in the virtue of wisdom, which are creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of learning, and perspective. And here's a summary of what was said. Virtue of wisdom is comprised of a keen interest in exploring and discovering that which is new, curiosity, the ability to figure out new ways to do things that are also useful or adaptable, creativity, a desire to seek out new information and hold on to it, love of learning, the ability to make rational and logical choices, judgment, the ability to see the bigger picture in any situation, perspective. Moving on to the virtue of courage, which has 4 character strengths: bravery, persistence, honesty, and zest. First character strength is bravery. There's our goldfish. Hope he makes it. How would you define bravery? Pretty easy. To be brave is to face your challenges, threats, or difficulties. It involves valuing a goal or conviction and acting upon it, whether popular or not. A central element involves facing rather than avoiding fears. There are 3 types of bravery. An individual may possess one of these or combination. Physical bravery, for example, firefighters, police officers, soldiers. Psychological bravery, for example, facing painful aspects of oneself. Moral bravery, for example, speaking up for what's right, even if it's an unfavorable opinion to a group. Reflection. Take a moment to find an affirmation you could use to increase your bravery. Positive psychology's suggestion for an affirmation is, I act on my convictions and I face threats, challenges, difficulties, and pains despite my doubts and fears. So facing things, despite doubts and fears. And their overall approach, based on research. Research is finding that one of the most common ways people can increase their bravery is to focus on the outcome of the courageous act. In other words, focusing on the beneficial outcome of a brave act rather than focusing on fears can increase the likelihood of acting bravely. And a few exercises. First exercise, observe courageous people. If you can't find an immediate example, think about brave people who once lived or observed courageous characters in movies and books. These observations often lead to feelings of inspiration and a sense that change is possible. Very practical. Second exercise, identify an area in which you generally shy away from confrontations. Practice the phrases, the tones, and the mannerisms that will enable you to effectively confront the situation next time. Again, very practical. Third exercise, don't be afraid to befriend someone who is different but positive. And the second character strength, persistence. Also known as perseverance or steadfastness. Same thing as far as we're concerned. How would you define persistence? Persistence is sticking with things. It means being hardworking and finishing what is started despite barriers and obstacles that arise. The pleasure received from completing tasks and projects is very important to those who are high in persistence. Sometimes he or she must dig deep and muster the will to overcome thoughts of giving up. Persistence involves organizing oneself to support activities, for example, scheduling breaks and sticking to them, rewarding in small ways along the way. But when all else fails, this strength helps the person to barrel through until the project is done. This helps build further confidence for future successes and goal accomplishments. So that's very important. This helps build further confidence for future successes and goal accomplishments. So parents, that's the goal. That's an important goal for parents in raising their children, to help their children achieve small successes. Then they'll be able to achieve medium successes, and because of that, able to achieve large successes. So success builds upon success and can get bigger and bigger through encouragement. Persistence involves the voluntary continuation of a goal-directed action, despite the presence of challenges, difficulties, and discouragement. There are two vectors of perseverance. It requires both effort for a task and duration to keep the task up. Right. And reflection. Take a moment to find an affirmation you could use to increase your persistence. Positive psychology's suggestion for an affirmation is, I persist toward my goals despite obstacles, discouragements, or disappointment. And positive psychology's research. Reframing setbacks or failures as learning opportunities and ideas for growth can boost the strength of perseverance. Setbacks can be viewed as providing useful information. So that's that idea again of not succeeding and how to deal with it. So they're saying it's a learning opportunity. Didn't succeed because there was something you didn't know, and you can learn that, and therefore succeed the next time. So that the individual can overcome obstacles, be less inclined to give up, and persist toward their goal. And the first exercise. Set 5 small goals weekly. Break them into practical steps. Accomplish them on time and monitor your progress from week to week. Second exercise. Keep a checklist of things to do and regularly update it. Third exercise. Select a role model who exemplifies perseverance and determine how you can follow his footsteps. And that slide hasn't been updated. Thank you very much.